Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. It is Tuesday the 17th of October and this is the news. We've got loads coming up. We are talking about obviously this takeover that is sort of half going on. Looking forward to news on Thursday, 25. We'll get into all of that. The update is apparently Erik ten Hag is backing Jim Ratcliffe. That is according to the Mail. We've also got updates from The Athletic as well, just how this is going to work, how this investment will look from Jim Ratcliffe. This story is rolling forward. This story is still unfolding, as we said on the podcast yesterday. There's a lot still to know and still to learn about what is going on with Manchester United. It's a strange situation. Jim Ratcliffe coming in with a 25% stake, but seems to be gaining some control over the footballing side of things, which you wouldn't necessarily expect from a stake of that size. Loads to unpick and updates, of course, coming in the last few hours that we'll get to about, basically what is next for Manchester United. Get your comments in, get your thoughts in. We're live, of course, so I'll be reading out your comments, so get them in. Also, if you haven't already, have a look and we'll get a link in the description. We are having a live podcast in Dublin on the 28th of December. Tickets are available. Come and see me, Steve, Adam and Jay all live on stage with a special guest as well. Make sure you come down and join us. It's only our second ever live podcast, so it would be so good to see you. Also, click the link in the description, which we're putting in there just now. We'll put it in the chat as well, and make sure you come and join us. But let's start with a bizarre story that you may have seen in the Mirror this morning. This is the connection that Paul Pogba may have a role in Jadon Sancho leaving Manchester United, thinking, wonder what that could be. Maybe he's sort of said, you should come to Juventus, it's great. Or maybe he's kind of, I've played here before, I've played at this club, I know these guys, maybe he's connecting. Actually, the story is Pogba has been so bad for Juventus that they're going to get rid of him and give his wages to Jadon Sancho, essentially. Jadon Sancho could be allowed to leave Man United next year, with Juventus a possible destination, which isn't, not even any evidence that he was going to go there, with the club set to make a notable financial saving on Paul Pogba. Juve will consider funding a move for Manchester United outcast Jadon Sancho, with the money saved on wages from Paul Pogba, who is facing a long-term ban for testing positive for excess levels of testosterone. What a story this is. Look, right, so basically the next segment is just them detailing how Sancho has fallen out with Ten Hag. Right, okay, go. A report in Calcio-Mercato claims that a return for Dortmund for Sancho is possible, but its representatives have also alerted Juventus to his availability. The Italian giants are making a financial saving from Pogba's wages, with the high-earning French star future uncertain at the club. What? What is that for a story? Juve, no evidence that they even want Jadon Sancho. The report is from Calcio-Mercato, who are unreliable at best, saying that Dortmund want Sancho, right, okay, and that also Sancho's team have told Juve that they could have him if they want to, and then if Pogba does have his ban upheld, then those wages could be... how many steps need to happen before this story is anything other than absolute S? Paul Pogba has to have his ban upheld. He has to have his wages taken off the books at Juve. Juve have to all of a sudden want Jadon Sancho. United have to be willing to sell Jadon Sancho. And then all of those things have to come together at once for this to be anything. I mean... I understand putting, adding two and two together, doing a bit of journalism creatively, but that is absolute madness, that story, isn't it? Paul Pogba's wages might be available. Juve might fancy Sancho. United might want to sell Sancho, and they might spend those wages on Sancho. So if you see that story, if you see it doing the rounds, that is the details. That is the meat of that story. And for me, it's not particularly meaty. So we'll move on. But I just wanted to talk about that because I just saw that earlier and thought, that cannot even be a real story. And yet, it is a real story. Bob says, morning, Joe. There you go. Lambert says, Nice are second in the league. Stop wittering. I mean, also, United aren't Nice. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't even matter where Nice are, because we'll see where United are if and when Jim Ratcliffe starts controlling the football side of things. Speaking of the football side of things, obviously the current people in charge of that are Darren Fletcher, and in particular, John Murtough and Richard Arnold, obviously. Murtough being, I can't remember his exact name, I don't even know. It's not sporting director. It's sort of somewhere in that realm. Richard Arnold is the CEO at Manchester United, and this is from the Telegraph, saying here that United's football hierarchy are hoping to convince Sir Jim Ratcliffe that they can lead the club forward despite the threat of an overhaul under the Ineos owners. I guess it makes sense, doesn't it? They are concerned for their jobs, as you would be anytime a new boss comes in anywhere. There's a potential chance that, they want to bring in new people. They want to bring their own people, especially if the people who are there, and admittedly, Richard Arnold and John Murtough haven't been there for that long, but they haven't in that time overseen a massive, successful sort of change at United, which maybe they were never going to. Maybe it's slightly harsh, but at the same time, if you're Jim Ratcliffe, if you want to be seen as anything other than just going along with the Glazers, you need to come in and put a little stamp on things where you're allowed and where possible. It says here, Erik ten Hag, the United manager, is expected to receive assurances he's part of Ratcliffe's plans, with the Dutchman known to have admirers in the Ineos camp. But it's understood that changes at senior level would not come as a surprise and could leave John Murtough, United's football director, that's his technical term, and chief executive Richard Arnold vulnerable. Ratcliffe may resist making sweeping changes before Ineos team have been able to conduct a thorough audit of football operations, particularly with the season already underway, but the department is expected to be closely scrutinised, as it should be. Obviously, you want job security, you want consistency at a football club, but at the same time, you have to be constantly analysing what is going on. Is it working? Are the things we're currently doing going to be successful long term? And if they aren't, then changes need to be made. And again, like I said before, Jim Ratcliffe needs to show that he isn't just Glazers 2.0, that he's just going to come in and carry things on as they were before. Something has to change, because otherwise, what is the difference? And he will be aware of the public image of the Glazers, if nothing else. So expect to see some changes where he can sort of possibly do it. We've got another story that sort of comes in after that. This is also from the Telegraph. I believe it's from the Telegraph, it might be from the Times, but we've got the BBC reporting it as well, and that is that Jim Ratcliffe wants control of football operations. Now, we knew that. The update is from the Times is that he wants it in 2024. He wants to be in charge by the January transfer window. So it says here in the Times, Jim Ratcliffe and his colleagues at Ineos hope to be in control of Manchester United's football operations in time for the January transfer window. The board is set to ratify Ratcliffe's purchase, a lot of rats in there, of 25% of the club for up to £1.3 billion at a meeting on Thursday. I like up to £1.3 billion, like this sort of like add-on clauses, like we're buying a player. It's 1.1 billion, but if United, win the Champions League, we owe you an extra 200 million. But it's likely to take another 8 weeks for the deal to be completed, with Ratcliffe also required to undergo the Premier League's owners and directors tests before he can officially join the board. While the future role of the Glazers has yet to be confirmed, part of the proposed agreement is for Ratcliffe and his team to take charge of the football side of the club immediately. Any changes to personnel will be overseen by Sir Dave Brailsford, the former British cycling and Sky boss, who is now the director of sport at Ineos and works at the Ligue 1 club Nice, who are second in the French top flight. But senior staff at Old Trafford are certainly fearful there will be changes, with the positions, like we said before, of Richard Arnold, the chief exec, and John Murtough, the director of football, thought to be among those who will be under scrutiny. So it's interesting, this 2024 thing, January transfer window obviously being one where we could first see an impact on this. But I don't quite know what can be done, what would change in 2 or 3 months. Let's even say you've got Paul Mitchell in there, the kind of the director of football that everyone loves, and he did great things at Southampton and Spurs, and I think Monaco as well. He sort of turned their fortune around. I think they're top of the league at the minute, aren't they, Monaco? Let's say we got him in. I don't know what that means for January. Is it just he's got his own scouting system? Is it the way he conducts negotiations? United scouts have still been doing X over the last however many months. Can they now start doing Y and unearth these new talents immediately? Or is Paul Mitchell going to sort of Peru and places where we don't currently scout particularly heavily and finding those players himself? I don't know. I don't know how that will work, but it's interesting that this could be a pretty quick turnaround, really. I know 8 weeks is a long time in terms of getting the deal over the line, but when you're talking about £1 billion being spent, you can understand why it takes a long time to dot the I's and cross the T's. But if we've got new people in charge by January, by the transfer window, that could be massive for Man United in the second half of the season and then going into next season. Another thing as well that remains to be seen is, I'm sure we've all seen the graphs. You don't even need to see the graphs because we know the Glazers have put £0 of their own money into Manchester United. But is Jim Ratcliffe able to put some of his own money into United's transfers, even though he's only a minority shareholder? Is that legal? Is he allowed to do that? I think there was up to 50 million a season, isn't there, that can come just from the owner's pocket, basically, into transfers. Can he do that with a minority investment? Can he say, actually, I know I don't own this thing, but I'm going to put 50 million into the transfers because I want to see Manchester United successful? Can he do that? I don't know. That's, again, all of these questions, and we will have football finance expert Kieran Maguire on the channel very soon. We've also got an interview with Ben Jacobs coming up this afternoon as well, which will hopefully dig in a little bit more into some of these questions. But there's so many things that could change at United, and how that will affect things, obviously, still remains to be seen, but it's certainly an exciting time, if nothing else. On that, we've got another piece from The Athletic, which we won't put on there because obviously it's behind a paywall, but I'll just read it, a couple of quotes from that. This is, what would Ratcliffe investment mean for Ten Hag and Man United on the pitch? Obviously, go and check this out in The Athletic if you want to read the full thing. But this kind of answers a few of those questions. So obviously it starts with United's board of directors will meet on Thursday, yada yada, to ratify this 25% deal. Essentially, he wants to replace the football part of his football club in the Ineos image. Then it talks about bringing managers in and how long Tuchel lasted at Chelsea. It was only 100 days under Todd Boehly. And then, from there, it sort of talks about how Ten Hag doesn't seem to be under threat. And obviously that can change at any time, but Ten Hag is currently safe. The interesting part about this, though, is that even though a manager change isn't expected, it doesn't prevent the structure around him from changing, despite the fact that Ineos have got a minority stake, which again, I didn't realise that was an option until this deal. I didn't think you could own 25% of a club and have any real control. Obviously, that has to have been agreed by the Glazers. But the scale and breadth of potential changes are difficult to gauge at this stage, not least because 7 months have passed since the Ineos camp visited Old Trafford and their last first-hand look at the club's inner workings. For now, the best indicator of Ineos' track record at other clubs, most notably their ownership of Nice, where their years of mediocre league finishes, internal disputes and flashes of fan unrest are beginning to make way for tentative sense of promise. The second in the league at the moment. But they're talking about who's there now. So they've got 34-year-old head coach, we just go back up there, 34-year-old head coach Francesco Farioli, who's a disciple of De Zerbi. He came in this summer. They've got a new style of play. They're trying to do all these different things. But again, it's hard, and they admit that it's hard to say what this exactly means for Man United. So, it's worth a read, but again, everyone is still in this position of, we don't know. Jim Ratcliffe hasn't spoken about this publicly. The Glazers haven't said anything publicly. There's been no comment from Manchester United publicly. What exactly this means for Man United at this stage is still rumour, reports and PR. And at the moment, we don't really know. So basically, we've got to wait a little bit, and hopefully we'll start to have a little bit more information next week. Dan United 94 says, thank you, Joe, for not claiming to have more business expertise than self-made multi-billionaire Jim Ratcliffe, unlike half of the clowns online. It does seem as though a lot of people don't believe that Jim Ratcliffe knows anything about anything, isn't it? Which is bizarre when you consider the fact that of the three people who could potentially come out of this business deal as the owner of Manchester United, Sheikh Jassim, the Glazers and Jim Ratcliffe, the only one who has made any of their own money is Jim Ratcliffe. The only one who's got any actual, business expertise is Jim Ratcliffe. Everyone else just got their money from their family. So, that doesn't mean he knows how to run a football club, and we can scrutinise and question that. Absolutely. I'm not sitting here saying he's going to be a great owner for Man United, but the business side of things, in terms of how to make money, how to do business, he has done more of that than any of them. So, that can't really be argued, can it? Let's wait and see how that translates to owning Manchester United, if indeed he does end up owning the full Manchester United in the next few years. Anyway, let's talk something a bit more clear, something that we do know about. Bruno Fernandes absolutely slapping goals in and assists for Portugal. He's just been absolutely on fire for Portugal, which is slightly frustrating on one hand in that he's not quite getting the same goals and assists for United, but it's also reassuring in that he isn't, just finished. He isn't someone that, is completely past it. I think you see there, he scored once again last night. Was it last night or the night before? They're already qualified. He got an assist and a goal, I believe. And just a stat on Bruno Fernandes. Since, I think, in his last 15 or 13 games, let me just double check this. In his last 16 games for Portugal, he's got 9 assists and 11 goals. 20 goal involvements in 16 games. It's just phenomenal. I think he's got the most assists of anyone in qualifying. He's just absolutely on golden form for Portugal, and hopefully he can bring that back to United once we start seeing other people perform around him, getting some players back from injury, Marcus Rashford finding his form again. He has got that quality and we know that. And it's just good to see United players who aren't necessarily performing that well for United, building up their form and coming back to their top form, because we need him. If United are going to finish top 4 or better or challenge for trophies this season, Bruno Fernandes is going to be a massive part of that. Disco Stu says, still not world class though, is he? With the crying laughing face. I don't know if that's you mocking people who says he isn't, or you're saying he isn't. I don't know. But I think he's been world class for United since he joined, absolutely. Ian McDonald says, who are the other 3 joint owners of Ineos? Because it's not just Jim Ratcliffe. Let's have a look. Ineos owners. I think he owns a large percentage of it, doesn't he? Owning 2/3 of the company, Ratcliffe is the driving force behind Ineos, so he owns, the controlling stake of Ineos. Andy Curry and John Rees are the other co-owners, and they also appear on the Sunday Times richly. So, in terms of the control of Ineos, Jim Ratcliffe is substantially the biggest controller with 2/3 of the company. So, for all intents and purposes, Jim Ratcliffe owns Ineos. There we go. Right, that is going to be all from me this morning. Get your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you think about this. Obviously, we've got till Thursday until we get this officially sort of ratified by the club, which I don't think anyone expects to not happen at this point. And then I'm sure we'll see a press release from either United or Jim Ratcliffe or both. And from there, I think we can push towards clarity and absolute clarity on what Jim Ratcliffe has got planned for Manchester United. What are you bringing that other people aren't? And also, here's the other thing we need to be asking, and I know that no one expects anything from the Glazers, so sometimes we go, no, it's just the Glazers being the Glazers. What the fuck are they doing with the £1.3 billion they're about to get? Because that has to be questioned as well. They should give us an answer to that. They should come to the fans and say, we have taken this structural investment, or whatever it's called, this investment into the club. What are you going to do with that? And make them tell us, we're just going to spend it on cars and houses and other investments. They should have to say that, because this thing of, Glazers being Glazers, we expect them to be shit, so we sort of let them get away with it. I know we're not letting them get away with it, but we should be asking the question. And even if it's them having to say, we're just going to keep it, make them say it. Because that's a hell of a lot of money they're about to get. Even if you consider, and it isn't their money, but even if you consider the debt that they used, the loan they used to buy Manchester United as their money, which it isn't, they still spent, it was 500 million quid to buy Man United, 550 million quid. They're about to get nearly triple that for no work, no nothing, no investment. What are you going to do with that money? At least explain it. At least have the, the confidence and the audacity to look at United fans and go, well, you're probably just going to keep it. We're not going to change anything about the debt. We're not going to invest it into the club. We're not going to invest it into any infrastructure. Make them say it. So that's the next thing. We need to put pressure on the Glazers to tell us, what are you going to do with that 1.3 billion quid? Right. That's going to be all from me this morning. Like I said, we'll be back with journalist Ben Jacobs this afternoon. He's got the inside scoop on the Qatari bid, what is going on with Manchester United, and we'll be getting a lot more information, a lot more detail on exactly what is going on, so make sure you come back later on to check that out. Also, like I said, in the comments, tickets to the Dublin show, make sure you check them out. If you're a member as well, if you join the YouTube membership, you get 10% off, and the code for that is in the members community section, so go and find that. You get a discount on the tickets. We'd love to see you there. Me, Adam, Steve and Jay, and a special guest as well, so make sure you come and check that out on the 28th of December, Stretford Paddock Live. Thank you for joining me this morning, and we'll see you in a bit.